And welcome back to another Integrated Interventions podcast. My name is Patrick Dundas. I'm the host and also the Director of Education at Integrated Interventions. And I'm very excited today for this podcast, one that I've been talking about for a while. I'm glad that we were able to make it happen. Joining us today is the Texas Education team. Joining us to our left is Nathan Villa. He is one of the tutors with our Texas Education team. Education coordinator Micah Brown, and over on the other side, working our way clockwise, is Maddie Mobley. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is exciting because it does remind me of, like, we have weekly education meetings, and I feel like the only difference is there just happens to be microphones in front of our faces in this one, but it is a roundtable discussion, and so I have a few questions for you, and then we'll talk about that. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. Nathan, what led you to integrated interventions?
It's strangely aligned with the point I'm at in my life right now, which is pursuing a career in education, but it's something that has allowed me to explore being able to approach education in non-traditional ways with non-traditional students. And that's kind of what I'm searching for in my personal life and in my own career path. And this was just kind of a godsend, so to speak, a deus ex machina, that it happened. And we had a conversation where we talked on that Memorial Day for the interview, and it just kind of all worked out. And I'm very thankful to be here.
Micah, you've been with us for a while in a variety of capacities, starting as a mentor and then working towards education.
So what led me to integrated was, I guess I would say, my values. So my biggest values in life was just bringing something as far as like a therapeutic effect on this world, however way that looked like. And that was my number one, of course, as I'm going to school for psychology. And then the second one is of course, my pathway to getting to that point, which is education. So eventually, I think that the team just saw that I was very educationally based. I took a lot of emphasis on the students of, what was being done as far as coursework, keeping their brain stimulated, just having them do something and working towards something, whatever that looked like, traditionally or non-traditionally.
And Maddie, how about for you?
Yeah, so like Nathan, I was already planning to pursue a career in education. I was going to school to be an English major. I still am, and I just was looking for a tutoring job, and I heard what this program was all about. I heard like their mission statement, how they want to help people, and I personally have friends and stuff with some health issues, mental health issues, and it really called out to me. And my first interview with Patrick, I really knew this was going to be something I would enjoy, and I was absolutely correct. So,
well, it's been awesome to kind of see how it's all come together, because we all together work together as a team to work with a number of our students. What does your job entail? So, of course, when you think of tutors, you're working with students on a wide variety of subjects, but that also extends outside of the traditional norms of academic tutors, what we think of them. So I'll go ahead and start with you, Nathan, and work our way around the room.
The main thing that I think this job entails is being able to have a personal relationship with the students in such a way as that you motivate them to want to engage in their own life and to engage with you, but also encourage the independence of their own thought and action. And I think that's something that's super rewarding and also challenging, is walking that balance between building a rapport while still focusing on the actual tutoring part of the job. But in my previous tutor jobs, I would say there's never been anything as rewarding as this job, wherein you get to see the progress of a student as you work with them daily. And having our team here with our diversity of strengths has just been something that has been integral to the growth of us as employees and tutors and our students. And I think that's mainly the core of it, is basically our relationships make all of this work and make dreams kind of a reality in a sense. And it's been a great joy to watch.
Micah, how about for you? What does your job entail as education coordinator?
As an education coordinator, I do a variety of things. I love to say to anybody who comes on board, I am not just an education coordinator. I am a mentor. I am a lead. I am, like anything that you need me to be in that moment. And sometimes as a tutor or an education coordinator, whatever the case may be. Like Nathan said, building that rapport, and then also, in between the tutoring, being able to, catch the things that other people possibly, didn't catch. Whether that is, a student describing a health issue or something emotionally going on, something like that. It doesn't always have to be just the tutoring aspect. It can be so much more also therapeutically. I also have the opportunity to talk with parents, join meetings with the leadership team, all that fun stuff. And it's a totally whole new set of responsibilities, but it's something that I have definitely taken a liking to. I really like this, different aspect of things that I've been able to go into.
And what do you like about this position, Maddie? Because it is, all the things that Nathan was describing. It will be very similar when you describe it as well. But from your perspective, what does the job entail, and what do you enjoy about this opportunity to work with students, kind of in a different traditional capacity?
Yeah, so beyond just, building that rapport, what I really like about integrated is that we don't force students down a traditional pathway. I know a lot of parents really dream for their kids to go to college and get a degree and stuff like that. And I like that at integrated, we don't force that here. We allow students to be themselves. So rather than just, trying to do college with everybody, we do like vocational work and try to get them apprenticeships and, hands-on things, mechanics and stuff like that. And so rather than trying to make them be something they're not, we work toward their strengths. And I feel like that's pretty rare in most programs. It's more like college based, trying to get them to do something maybe they don't enjoy. So that's what I really like about working here specifically. Some other things I like about working here is that we help them do stuff like getting into college as well. We're not just, the light like tutoring and stuff. We help them do their applications. We help them get jobs. We do mock interviews with them. So it's a wholesome education rather than just academic.
That's a great point, Maddie. Honestly, I mean, if a student shows interest with us, then we totally run with it. We were helping a student get their hunter's license the other day, and I'm
Yeah.
not a hunter by any means, but I was over there studying it and trying to learn about guns and everything. And yeah, if a student wants to work with us, we'll find a way to make something happen with them, and that's something that I think all of us are adept at overcoming and embracing. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of
Another
fun.
thing is like not only is the way we go at them and the educational program that we continue with them is so custom fit, even like their scheduling or their learning adversities or their learning styles, whatever. Like everything is so custom fit to where we have to take everything into consideration, their whole, identity as a person, say, hey, you tell me what works versus trying to tell them what works.
Yeah, it's beyond that idea of, I guess, traditional education in some ways does not meet everybody where they're at. And sometimes you find that kind of like square peg, round hole, where you're trying to force something to go into an area or a shape that it just doesn't quite work. So finding that unique way to meet their needs and to meet them where they're at, especially with their learning capabilities. But also the fact that we get to know them and develop those personal relationships, that we can notice those subtleties in order to come up with a unique way to meet them where they're at.
Yeah, and especially them being the age group that they're all generally around, I think it's been really beneficial to see that they do want to learn. They have an interest in taking charge of their own life in whatever capacity that they're capable of at this time. And being able to meet them on that, helping people help themselves, is always something. I mean, that's a cliche statement, but it's definitely not a cliche in our line of work. You
Yeah, how do you work with a student that has traditionally kind of had an adversarial relationship with school? They haven't had a lot of success. They have convinced themselves that they're not capable. Where do you start working with the student? Because we have a lot of students that kind of fit that description.
know.
I would say by, of course, validating, whatever experience that they had, because that is their opinion, that's their formative experience, that they have within themselves. So of course, validating that, but also like recognizing the fact that they have a negative correlation. So that way, whenever they come to us, we're able to, provide a positive correlation. So let's say, a student doesn't necessarily like learning about an adult skill such as financial literacy, but loves skateboarding. We're going to say, okay, like, how about we, do about 30 minutes of lecture time, and then later on we can go to the skate park, so that way it's not necessarily, oh my gosh, somebody's making me do this, I have to do this, but more so, hey, like, it's not all that bad. We can, we can do something fun right after. And so now whenever we go in, of course he's going to, probably ask to go to the skate park, but it's so much better having that positive correlation versus, a negative one. And even if it's not necessarily, a kind of hooking them on a line, but also just asking them, like, what is your experience, what are your do's and don'ts, what do you need from me so that I can teach you better. Of course there's going to be some people that just don't like school, period, which is totally fine, but we are absolutely here to hear them out, get those do's and don'ts, and go on from there.
I think that's a big part of it. I think in my personal experience, it's not getting angry with them because I have bad experiences in public education and traditional education. And even in my college career, I've noticed a lot of things where they do want you to kind of fit a square peg in a round hole. But I will say that with these students, it's been a lot of work to be able to recognize where they're at, and then also getting them to feel justified in their experience, but also allowing them to express that anger and that upsetness while trying to mend it towards that positive correlation, as Micah said. And it's honestly something that I think once they realize how they are now, because when they take that aggressive approach, that adversarial approach, it's because they think they don't have anything else to learn or anywhere else to go, and they think they're fine, and they don't want to be told that they're not in any capacity. But telling them, well, if you look how good you are now, imagine how much different it would be with some more skill sets in your arsenal, and then once they make that realization, that click, then it really kind of just flows uphill from there. We're always working towards a goal and getting them to find the goal they want, whether that's going to the skate park or whatever that may be, is something that they discover on their own, but it's awesome being able to facilitate that.
Absolutely. I would say over anything, it's the rapport. Sometimes a student will not want to do anything, but they'll do it just because they get to spend time with you.
Yeah, exactly,
So,
yeah.
and that is the biggest, accomplishment that I have seen within the education team. And even in the mentorship, they will do activities just so they have that time with you versus anything, which is really cool.
And that's just because we're awesome.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, going into building that rapport, what really helps me connect with the students a lot is just celebrating the small successes. A student may not, I work a lot with math and algebra and such, which is a difficult topic for anybody, I would say. But what really helps me get to them is celebrating the small successes. They may not be able to, do a whole equation whenever I start with them. But, if they get, a positive and negative, they get a rule down, they're like, oh, I'm supposed to do this. Yes, high five, fist bump, like, you got this. It's just really that positive encouragement, because I think it's hard to come by in like public school and more traditional educations is you don't have anyone there to like be your cheerleader, I guess. And when they get into, they don't do so well because of their circumstances, I think it's easy for them to fall into like a negative thought pattern. But I think being there to support them and show them, hey, just because, you're learning doesn't make you less than. It doesn't mean you're bad at it. You just need to continue to grow. So
right, exactly. And especially coming into a program, they come here and the assumption is there's something wrong with them. Otherwise they wouldn't be in where they're at. And so, yeah, being their cheerleader like that goes such a long way because they deserve that.
Exactly.
And they need that. I mean, I need that. So it works out well.
Well, the one-on-one kind of small group model as well does go a long ways to feel as though, instead of being, in a class of 25, 30 plus students, they get that one-on-one attention. And so I think they find as well that they're able to get that reassurance that along the line that they realize that they knew more than they thought they did. And they're able to have somebody able to reaffirm that in a smaller setting really does go a long way with some of these students. There's so many cool things that you end up learning about them, but also about yourself. And I have to say, as a teacher and an educator, I learn a lot from them. I learn a lot from the students. I mean, I learn a lot from y'all as well. Have you found those moments where you worked with a student and then you realize something about yourself that you maybe didn't previously realize, maybe from a self-reflection standpoint?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. I can think of so many situations where I go to a student and they end up telling me more about the subject that I'm trying to teach them on. And they absolutely school me. They school me, whether it's a history subject or, math or whatever the case may be. I absolutely get schooled. And, you would think, of course, oh, who am I? What have I been doing all my life? Have I been hiding under a rock almost? But then you say, you know what? They just have a totally different set of skills and strengths. This might be, one of those things that they just, took on to at a young age or even, later on in their life that, everybody just has such like a different and unique take on life and what they want to take from it.
Yeah, it comes back, even the self-reflection finds its way to deepen over time, because there are so many ways that in a way it almost builds off each other.
Right.
You may have one of those moments, then you work with another student where that even strengthens that idea.
Yeah.
And that's pretty neat as well. How about for you, Maddie, in that regard?
Yeah, so this job has taught me about myself that I may be a little bit of a perfectionist. And it's something working with students I definitely have to get over. I know at the beginning I felt like I might overstep a little bit and try to do things for them rather than giving them the time to process and do things for themselves.
And mess up.
Yes, and mess up. It's so hard to watch somebody mess up, but it's something that I've learned, like everybody's going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to learn in their own time. And, doing this job has taught me that I'm not there to, take over for them and make sure they get a 100, because that's their grade. That's not my grade at the end of the day. I'm just their support. I'm not here to do it for them. I'm just here to teach and, so,
Well,
but
natural
yeah.
consequences.
Absolutely.
Being a natural consequences based program, it allows for them to see that correlation between if I do this, then this might happen, and living it for themselves and understanding that what could happen as a result of a decision making. I would rather them make that decision and then have somebody there to support them. That's
Right.
why I've always been a big proponent of this kind of one-on-one tutoring kind of foundation that we have with it, because if something does happen, at least they have someone there to kind of help them and
Right.
help kind of pick them up and dust them off a little bit, or just be there just to be an ear so they can work through having lived through that challenge.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Maddie that that is a genuine struggle in this job because of how much we care. We don't want to overstep our bounds and limit what they're able to accomplish on their own through making mistakes. But there is the urge there, like, oh, come on, like you're right there, like I can just help you do it. And it's very much like teaching a kid to ride a bike at that moment. Like you said, you used the analogy of picking them up and dusting them off. I think that we have to be okay with giving them a little boost and then letting them, be able to balance or fall, but being there to be able to pick them up and work them through it again and show why they made that mistake and how we can avoid it next time. But yeah, I definitely agree, Maddie. It's very tough sometimes to be able to let go and allow them to do their thing on their
Yeah,
own,
like if
you
a
know?
student fails, their lecture course in college, their one course, like it's not that we failed. It's like you didn't even fail either. You did your best, and we'll try again next time. But we didn't fail. I didn't fail, and I didn't fail you. We just got to do better next time. That's all.
Yeah, and I know some students love to blame it on us.
Oh, yeah.
They love
Yeah.
they love to have somebody else to put it off to put it onto, but
Anybody would.
yeah,
I don't blame 'em
exactly.
for
And
that.
we're just in the perfect place for that. So really being able to separate myself from that
Yeah.
has helped me a lot in this job, and that's a really valuable lesson. Is just allowing to make even in my own life, like allowing the people around me to make mistakes, and I'm not in charge of their lives, and it's up to them.
You bring up a good point as well. Again, honestly, it's a double-edged sword because of where we're at in our rapport and our level of intimacy with the students in a professional way. We are in a position to make great changes and great progress, but we're also in a position to be at fault in their eyes for great setbacks. You know what I mean? So there's that double-edged sword of being able to help, but also how much helping is hurting, and in their eyes, are we helping or hurting them? And so that's something we always have to consider, and knowing that balance between what we're able to actually do for them and what we need them to do on their own, whether it works out the way they want it to or not. I mean, it's not the same as being a parent, but I think I'm pretty prepared for parenthood right now. And I'm saying that long before I am an actual parent. So, get back at me in like 5 years and we'll see if I still say that. But
Send you this.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm going to be like, I had no idea. I made a huge mistake. No.
There's a lot of life lessons, though,
Yeah.
that you end up realizing in this whole process of being able to work with the students. And I feel like it's an honor, that opportunity to work with them, because there's so much that is learned. And I want to say there's also something to be said for finishing something. Even if they didn't say they have the class and then they just end up shy of passing.
Yeah.
I have worked with a student, that worked so hard and, they ended up, instead of, they needed the 70 to pass, but then they got the 69.25. Wasn't enough to round up, but they had never finished a class because of the classes they had previously taken. They would either drop them or they give up. And then they finished it and got so close to the mountain, but weren't able to get up there. But it was such a great life lesson that they believe that they were so close that the next time they take this class or take another class, they're confident that they can pass it.
Right.
So I think there's something to just be said for finishing something, because we work with students that aren't able to, kind of put all the pieces together, and we're there to help them figure out how those pieces come together. I know that all three of you can speak to that individually, of the power of finishing something. And I want to start with you, Nathan. We'll work our way around the room.
Yeah, I mean, the power of finishing something is amazing because it reaffirms and actually shows you all the ways in which you maybe lack self-confidence. I mean, as human beings, we're inherently insecure. I feel like there's a lot, especially in the time we live in now, there's so much to aspire to, there's so much possibility, and you get an anxiety from it. I mean, and that's Heidegger, that you get anxiety from all this infinite choices of actions that you can take. And so being able to stick to just one kind of shows the dedication and the power of human beings to be able to accomplish something that they maybe weren't secure about themselves before. I know personally, I'm about to finish my college degree and then go into my undergrad and then go into my master's program. And I made C's in high school. I was not a good student traditionally, and I'm a weed in the academia field now. They don't like me because I'm not like them. But the fact that I'm able to share that progress with the students and be able to tell them from experience that, hey, it is so rewarding to be able to know that you worked for something, and to know that, see the ways in which you've grown. And even if you're still insecure, knowing that you can at least, about another issue, knowing that you can at least attack something or accomplish something by engaging with it. You got to run through it, not away from it, and that's been amazing to witness personally and with them.
Well, that's contagious too, because once you get that first victory under your belt, then you never know where it's going to expand to. And then you find that, well, I did this, I was able to successfully do this, and now I can do this, and now I can do that. And then the world looks a lot different.
Yeah, playing on to that, actually, growing up, I was always told, you start something, you finish it. And that could, be taken as something positively or even, a little bit toxic. But to me, especially like now and where I'm at in my life, I don't see it so much as like something so, David and Goliath, like, oh my gosh, like I have to finish this thing, It is more so what you said, like if I can do this, then I can probably do, the next thing, and then I can probably do the next thing. But even whether you start it and you don't finish it or you do, to me, I'm like, it's the effort. It's what you put into it. If you tried it, or, if in the middle you weren't doing so well, but in the end you finished strong, or that you at least advocated for yourself. Because there's so many, I guess like adversaries that could come into it, whether it's, a move in the middle of the semester, or you just weren't having the best day that day on that test day, whatever the case may be. Like, you are a human, and it's okay sometimes to not be at your best. But the thing is that, you tried, you put in that effort, whether you passed with flying colors or if you finished it, but, didn't do as well as you wanted to. Regardless, as long as you feel like you did enough and you did your part, that's what matters to me.
And with our students, they haven't always been there before, and they need someone to show them how to get there. And we're able to have that opportunity to be able to do that. I know something, Maddie, that's also something you've had the opportunity to do, is to lead people to directions. We all have, but I wanted to hear from your perspective of what that looks like for you from your,
Yeah, so playing off of what Micah said, trying is like really, really scary, especially if you don't have anything to like base it on, so just having that knowledge that you have done something and you have accomplished it, because lots of students don't like to put the effort in because they don't know what they can achieve and what they're capable of, and they're afraid of finding out. They're afraid that they may try and they may do their best and they may strive for something, and when they get there, they might miss the mark. And you really, in order to get over that fear, you just have to accomplish something, anything, whether you do badly, whether you do great, it's just getting past that first point, your first accomplishment, your first finishing something through to the end, that completion. Once you've faced that fear and you put in all your effort, you can't really grow until you've experienced that. So, yeah.
I also like what you said with how, if you think more positively and you go into it, like, this will work out for me, that inherent positivity, I think you said, same thing, we're able to teach the students, hey, build yourself up a little bit, you utilize some affirmations, say you can do it, say, I am capable. I do enough. I'm putting in the work, whatever the case may be, because a lot of people have this negative mindset and just frame of thinking to where whenever they go into tasks or things that they are expected to do or want to do, that they're going to do badly at. And of course, that has, a psychological effect on your performance right after that. So, even some people may argue, I did go in there with a positive mindset and it still came out the same. That's totally okay. But no matter what, don't break yourself down in order to make yourself feel better about your results. You always want to build yourself up regardless of that.
There's always a positive aspect of that, even when you do fail, and I think that's another thing, circling back to rapport, that building our relationships with them allows us to do, is that, and not in the case of Icarus, like, they can fly toward the sun, because they have us there. They have this whole program there to be their wings and to be their safety net. And so why not shoot for the sun? Your wings aren't going to melt. We got you. And I think making sure they know that through the relationship and rapport building pays off big time.
Yes.
And then, every failure is a learning experience. If you give up halfway, you'll never get the results of what you did. So you'll never be able to look back and, see, the things that you did great on and the things that you could maybe work on more and how you got to the point where you are. If you just give up halfway, you'll never know what it is that you can continue to work on.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny because trying to build this, positive reinforcement and correlation to education or literally anything, any endeavor that they go into in life seems very positive and almost cliche, but it's so true. And so whenever we're able to build enough rapport to say, hey, just amuse me, like, let's do some affirmations, they think you're crazy, but then we do it and you genuinely like have like a better, I guess, like aura, the atmosphere to that, to the rest of the conversation, even, ongoing days, especially if you keep up that consistency, because that is something, all across the board that we try to implement with students, is that affirmation aspect, believing in yourself, building yourself up. But yeah, it's pretty funny because they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Which is fair. I have trouble doing that for myself, but we actually talked about affirmations with a student a while ago. And then I went home and looked in the mirror and I was like, trying to say loving things about myself, and I was like, I'm pretty, but it was amazing actually to be like, wow, like, this actually could help, and it might, and it does. So yeah, that's definitely something, and that shows that we're not traditional by any means of the word, because we are trying to tell our kids, like, hey, have self-mirror talks, hype yourself up. We don't go in there and we're like, we don't present them the material and like, this is what we're doing today, like in a traditional tutoring sense. It's kind of more along the lines of, how are you, what's going on, what are you feeling, and then we integrate that into integrated solutions. But yeah, it's a great honor, like you said.
One of the challenges that comes up, and I think that sometimes can be a hard thing for students to push past, is fear of the unknown. And in some cases, they'll shut things down because out of that concern or fear of not knowing what's next, or not having the security of themselves to be able to deal with what's next, because life can be a little scary at times, and adulting can be a scary process, especially if you've never done it. So it's a lot easier to just sit back and be like, okay, I'm going to pull my head over the covers today, and I'm not going to get out of bed because this is a safe place for me. And that's something we have experienced here, of motivating someone, working with someone who has a fear of growing up in a way. What are some of the approaches that you work with someone that is not sure, that has an uneasiness about trying to figure out what's next?
I would say, first of all, not giving up. Just literally showing up every single day, doing whatever it takes, and utilizing every single approach that you can think of to make, that want of staying away from the unknown, hiding under the covers, or, just utilizing avoidance tactics in order to not get to that objective, or whatever the case may be, because they don't know what's behind that door. But they will genuinely convince themselves and others around them that it's something totally off the wall than what's really going on, something very surface level whenever there's something, internal there. So again, not giving up on them. Second of all, utilizing all and any approaches to make that avoidance uncomfortable for them. So that's either, whether they're in bed, sitting there, waiting, teaching them while they're literally in bed, until they literally are like, oh, like, that looks interesting, which has happened many, many times.
You're still here?
Yes, exactly. Nathan, I know, sometimes his dogs will come along and his dogs will literally like go in there, and the student will not want to respond to, hey, come sit at the table with me and do some work. They'll respond to, my dogs are here. Let's go in the backyard really quick and we'll get started.
Well, my dogs will like lick their faces off.
Yes, exactly. And then honestly, again, like even if all those approaches don't work, just genuinely going to them and saying, let's get to the bottom of this. I want to bring this to the table and I truly want to talk, and if this is something that you maybe want to talk with your therapist, instead, that's totally okay. But I'm here for you 100% of the way, whether that's, walking up to the college, doors, literally holding our hands together, waiting for you outside of class, whatever the case may be. But I also just try to meet them where they're at. What are you interested in? What is a way that I can engage you with this material? Not saying that this is going to go away, but what will make it more fun and engaging for you, whether that's, reading about horticulture, plants, in order to get reading comprehension done, because, that's an interest that one of our students has, or utilizing candies, to say, hey, but there's candy, let's do some math. This is a visual learning experience. Let's go, just fun. I try to make it more fun than it is serious.
And I'll say, Patrick, I'm scared every day I wake up. As an adult, I have no idea what the day's going to bring. But I will say that for me, a personal approach that I've used with the students is focusing on habituation. And that kind of just goes back to something I learned a long time ago, which is Aristotle's definition of happiness. It's just never-ending activity, exercising your virtues, exercising your intellectual and your soul virtues, or whatever you want to call it. And that's something that I try to bring up to them. I'm like, well, they may be scared of accomplishing this certain goal. And I said, well, what did you do today to work towards that, or to address that fear, or to bring to their own attention, bring into the light of awareness what they have been doing and what they could be doing, and not making them feel guilty one way or another, but just making them aware of it and do with that information as they will. Of course, I maybe try to steer it in a little bit of a direction, try to guide that process to a point where it's a little bit productive. But at the same time, if they want to lay in bed and we need to teach while on the floor, or like what Maddie did today, like hold up a piece of paper next to the side of the bed, then we'll do that too. But yeah, focusing on habituation, I think, helps with the fear. And that's an inherent strength of humanity, is like our ingenuity and being able to compartmentalize these vast and great topics and use trial and error and, whatever the scientific method, whatever you want to call it, to make sense of things that are beyond our realm of understanding at first, and so yeah, habituation.
Yeah. And then for me, I feel like a lot of the students feel like they're afraid of growing up because I think they feel that it requires some self-sacrifice. As an adult, I have to take on these new responsibilities. And I'm going to have to sacrifice a part of myself, my creativity, my interests. Is that going to be gone? Am I not going to dress how I want? Do I have to dress professionally like an adult? Do I have to start wearing makeup, and stuff like that? And my favorite thing to do with a student is show them that you can always be yourself. Wherever you go in life, like you will always be able to be yourself. Like I show up to work wearing wacky things sometimes. I'm very colorful. A lot of the students think I'm weird, and I'm so okay with that because I like to prove like it's okay to be weird.
Yeah.
It's okay to be an adult and to be different. You don't have to conform to society in order to be successful and happy in life. So I feel like being able to get that message across to them really helps with, their fear of the unknown, because I want them to know, even like on your travels, you will never have to sacrifice, your core, who you are.
Mm-hmm. Always meet them where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And you are as cool and as wise as Miss Frizzle. So
That is the best compliment. I
I
love Miss Frizzle. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like we could talk for hours. Like this is a round table that could continue on, but for time purposes, we'll have to wind things down. But I really appreciate the opportunity for you, all three of you, to join me today and to talk a little bit about what you do and the tutoring process and the education process here at Integrated Interventions. It's these conversations, and we've had a lot of these conversations outside of kind of this very specific area today, but it's what keeps me going. And one of the things I love my job so much for that reason. So I very much appreciate everything that you do and the time that you've taken to join me today.
Of course.
Thank you.
Happy to be
We
here.
appreciate you too.
Awesome.
We wouldn't be